we are going to be talking about plot and conflict. Okay, plot and conflict. Conflict will be something we will especially cover more later on soon, but probably not this week too much. But we are going to be talking about plot. There are two ways to plot things. Today we're going to cover the way that the book uses, and tomorrow I'm going to show you guys a different way to plot. So everyone say plot.
Plot.
Plot. Good. So when you plot something, close your books. Close your books. When you plot something, you are sequencing it. So you know how when they'll give you a list of things and they say put these in order? Okay? It's kind of what you're doing. So the diagram that the book uses is a piece of candy. Okay? So with the piece of candy illustration, this is the beginning, this is the middle, and this is the end. Okay? So, right, just always think the middle is where all the good stuff happens, right? The middle is where all the candy, and just think anytime there's something in the middle of a piece of candy, usually that's the best part, right? Yeah. Unless it's orange-filled chocolate. I don't like orange-filled chocolate. Not my favorite. So, let's be thinking for a second. What's some things that might happen in the beginning of our story? If any story, what usually do you find out at the beginning, Boy Leon? What do we find out about characters? We find out their... Someone help them out.
Like, we usually find out their, interest.
Okay, interests, but even more than that, we find out their names, right? We find out about the characters.
Like, my name is Paul.
Okay, we find out about the characters, because can you really read a story if it just starts out, girl went and did this, boy went and did this, girl number 2 went, does that help you? No. We got to find out about the characters, and it gives us a little bit of information about the characters, right? Mary?
Sometimes there's like a problem.
A problem, that sometimes comes up just a little bit later, okay? What did we talk about last week that might fit here, Grace?
The setting.
Thank you, the setting. Okay? So, remember, the setting is what? Mary, what's one thing in the setting?
The season.
Okay, so we'll just say the time, because sometimes it's not a season, but like a time of day or a specific holiday or something like that. But like time, yes.
Where the story takes place.
Good, so the place. Good. So this is pretty much what we find out in the beginning, right? We just get some background information about the characters and the setting, okay? Who thinks they can name something in the middle? We already said a problem. That is also called the conflict, okay? Everyone say conflict.
Conflict.
A conflict is a problem or it doesn't even necessarily, when we say conflict, sometimes it sounds like a fight, right?
Yes.
And we'll learn later on about different types of conflicts, because there's man versus man versus machine, man versus nature. So there's all kinds of different types of conflict, right? But it doesn't necessarily mean they're standing up fist fighting each other, right? What's something else that would happen in the middle? What's something else? Samara?
Some other characters come into the story, like the main, at the beginning, it's like the main, it's only the main character, but some other characters can come into the story.
Okay. So we can just say like actions, because a lot of times when that happens, it's because of an action of a character, right? So we get more interactions and more details. Yes.
Event.
Good, the event. Charisma.
It gets more funnier.
Okay, sometimes if it's a funny book, it could get more fun. So it just gives it, because of that, the reason why that happens is they give more detail, right? That's where we find out why the characters are the way they are. Like maybe there's a funny name and then later on they'll tell you why, right? So it's just one of those things that you kind of, they give you more detail throughout the story. What happens at the end? Ben?
Maybe a happy ending.
So they solve, good. So usually that happens because they solve a problem, right? That is also called
A solution.
a solution. Everyone say solution.
Solution.
When we get a solution, hey boy, Leon, take that off your head, bud. When we get a solution, it doesn't even necessarily mean the problem was 100% fixed, right? Because maybe our main character, if our main character was Grace and she really, really wanted to have recess all day long and not do any schoolwork, but ended up she gets to have recess for an extra 20 minutes, but she still has to come in. Was the problem 100% solved? Did Grace get what she wanted?
Yeah.
No, but she got a solution, right? Then this is also just kind of where we wrap up any loose ends, right? So we wrap up the story.
And
Okay? So this is kind of where we find out like where they're going or what's happening or anything like that, right? Okay. So this is how the book does it. So this is how we're doing our activity today. Tomorrow I will show you something that you all are going to be like, right now you're going to be like, what? This is called, maybe not tomorrow, but next week at the latest, we will talk about this. This is called a plot diagram. And it's like this, but different.
it looks like
Okay.
a mountain.
So, we are going to look at page 212 right now in our books. Go to page 212 in your workbook. 212, yep. In the workbook, 212. Alright, so on page 212, it's telling us, it's titled, What's the Problem, right? So we're going to read this paragraph, then number the events in order, and then circle the event that tells us the problem or conflict. Okay? So let's read this paragraph. Rapunzel was a very happy girl, but one day a wicked woman locked her in the top of a high tower without any food or water. Happily, the prince from next door wanted to rescue her. He was not only a prince, but also a captain of a local volunteer firemen's brigade. So he called his men together. They drove the fire truck to the tower and used the big ladder to bring Rapunzel down. The prince married Rapunzel and they lived happily ever after. Okay? So, let's just look at our events, okay? The prince called the men together. Rapunzel was locked up in the top of a high tower without any food or water. The prince and his men drove the fire truck to the tower and rescued Rapunzel. The prince married Rapunzel, and Rapunzel was a very happy girl. Which one happened first? Mary.
Rapunzel was a really happy girl.
Good. Put a 1 next to that. Grace, what happened second?
Rapunzel was locked in the top of a high tower without any food or water.
Good. That is number 2. Boy Leon, what's number 3?
The prince wanted to rescue her.
So what did he do? The prince called...
Called his men.
Good. The prince called his men together. Number 3 was the prince called his men together. Samara, number 4.
The prince and his men drove the fire truck to the tower and rescued Rapunzel.
Good. That is number 4. The prince and his men drove the fire truck to the tower and rescued Rapunzel. Number 5, Sui. What's left? Good. So, we have one more thing we need to do though. It says to circle the event that tells what the problem or conflict is. Which one of these shows the problem or conflict, Bella?
2.
Number 2, good. Rapunzel was locked in the top of a high tower with no food or water, right? Even though that happened early in our story, that was our problem, right? Does that make sense? Okay, so look at this bottom part. It says, find the parts of the plot. Write the number of the event that fits in the beginning. Write the number of the events that fit in the middle. And write the number of the event that belongs in the end. So there's going to be one that goes in the beginning, one that goes at the end, and the other 3 will go in the middle, okay? So, which event would happen in the middle? We're just going to put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay? Which one is it? Mary, which one? Which one goes in the front? 1, right? What's one that needs to go in the middle? Keegan, what's one that needs to go in the middle? Charisma? 2. Keegan, do you have another one? 3. And one more needs to go in the middle. Ben? We have 2 and 3, so what's the other one that needs to go in the middle? 4. And our last one goes in the end, which is number 5. So if you guys notice, we sequenced it, right? So our beginning was number 1, our middle was 2, 3, 4, and the end was 5. So let me just read these in correct order for you. Rapunzel was a very happy girl. Rapunzel was locked in the top of a high tower without any food or water. The prince called his men together. The prince and his men drove the fire truck to the tower and rescued Rapunzel. The prince married Rapunzel. So, this is a very shortened version of that story, right? But with sequencing it and seeing our important parts, we're able to plot out our story, okay? So, just like we talked about up here, our beginning talked about our main character, right? Rapunzel. She was a happy girl. We don't really get our setting till part of number 2. It says she was locked in a tower, right? So we get a little bit of our setting in the middle. And then we also get that the prince came and rescued her with the help of his men. And then they got married, right? Does that make sense?
Why is the person on the ladder next so thin?
I don't know. All right. So, now look at 2:13, okay? You guys are going to do this part on your own, okay? So, you guys are going to be numbering these 5 sentences, okay? You're going to read them and figure out which makes sense. So, let me read these to you really fast. There once lived a girl named Hilda. The police arrested the pirates. One day, Hilda and her sister were kidnapped by pirates. Hilda found the police, and together they saved her sister. Hilda managed to escape. So when I say to you, you guys are going to put them in the correct order. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? Now, listen carefully to this part. Do you see the color-coded boxes? Beginning, middle, end. I know if you have a copy, it's not color-coded, but you know what I'm saying. Beginning, middle, end. Right? You are not just putting the numbers like we did on the candy on page 212. You need to rewrite the whole sentence. Okay? So the one that you put number 1 by goes in the beginning. Okay? The whole sentence. 2, 3, and 4 will go in the middle. The whole sentence. Okay? And number 5 will go on the end. For 2, 3, and 4 in the middle, make sure you write on one line, and then you go the next line and the next line, okay? You're writing the whole sentence. You are going to, after you do it, what I would do is read it and make sure it makes sense before I turn it in. If it doesn't make sense, then I might not have put something in the right order. Okay? Yes?
Are you gonna rip this page out?
Yes. So then you're going to make sure your name is on it, and you're going to turn it in. All right?
I could